In rolling farmland just outside Richmond, Kentucky, lies a historic mansion known as Whitehall. Built originally in 1799 by General Green Clay, a prominent Kentucky landowner and surveyor, the home began as a 7-room house. Decades later, his son, General Cassius Marcellus Clay, an abolitionist, publisher, and U.S. minister to Russia, and his wife, Mary Jane Warfield Clay, oversaw a dramatic expansion. They transformed the house into a 44-room mansion with central heating and indoor plumbing. Beyond its architecture and innovation, Whitehall is steeped in social and political history. Cassius Clay's daughter, Laura Clay, became a major figure in the women's suffrage movement. Today, the estate is preserved as a state historic site. Guests can tour the mansion, admire original furnishings, and reflect on its layered stories of wealth, politics, social change, and architecture. Whitehall represents a vivid reflection of American history. As the home evolved, so did the country around it. Through the upheaval of the Civil War era, Whitehall became a backdrop for fierce ideological battles and sweeping reforms that redefined the nation's moral and political landscape. As the decades progressed, the estate continued to reflect the changing American values. From the rise of women's rights and the struggle for a broader social equality to the 20th century movement towards historic preservation, which sought to protect the stories, structures, and memories of the generations that came before. Today, Whitehall stands not only as a historic site, but as a layered testament to the forces that have shaped American identity across nearly 2 centuries.
According to the Historical Marker Database, Whitehall originally comprised of 2,200 acres and housed 102 slaves. Although the slave quarters have been lost to time, there are several structures that still remain intact, including the loom house, stone kitchen, and 2 ice houses along with the main estate. The loom house sits 125 feet behind the main home. Eastern Kentucky University's Say My Name project was started as a response to the institution purchasing the Whitehall estate. Its purpose is to uncover the many African Americans' names and lives who were enslaved by the Clay family in order to honor them for their construction and maintenance of the estate. The actual work, though, was tedious. Students and professors alike on campus worked together to transcribe old documents owned by the University of Kentucky and donated by the community of Madison County. The project has made some very special and productive finds. Transcribed deeds of manumission, ledgers detailing the tensions between the Clay family and the Confederate Army, and details about purchasing shoes for enslaved peoples, as well as their names. One slave that the students definitely know by name is Lottie. The project is still very much in its infancy, but is making broad steps to accomplishing its goal.
Okay, so the big question is, why is this all important? Why did we just spend the time to tell you about the history, layout, and even about the Say My Name project? Well, it's because people of color have slowly been erased from our history. Let's take Phillis Wheatley, for example. She was the first African American woman to publish a book of poetry. I mean, she even laid the groundwork for African American literature. However, it took until college for me to hear anything about her. I heard nothing about her in my middle or high school history classes. And that's why it's so important to know the history of a historical place in your area like Whitehall. We need to understand that enslaved people were the backbone of keeping a place like that running. Slaves are a massive part of our history. Even though a lot of people would like to sweep that fact under the rug, it doesn't dismiss the fact that it happened. And trying to erase their names from history due to something like guilt is worse than admitting fault and honoring those that kept Whitehall running. That's why the Say My Name project is so important. It ensures that those enslaved people aren't lost to history. However, on November 13th, the Eastern Kentucky Board of Regents discussed transferring the ownership of Whitehall to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I have to wonder, how will this affect the Say My Name project? And how will it affect future students' knowledge of this historical place? Will the enslaved people that kept Whitehall running be erased from students' memory? Will only those that are involved with the project know who truly were in Whitehall?